All right, I'm calling to order our regular board meeting of Tuesday, April 12th. Can I get a roll call, please?
Student Trustee Dana?
Here.
Student Trustee Lira?
Here.
Trustee Boyd?
Here.
Trustee Davidson?
Here.
Trustee Doss? Don't see him. Vice President Duran?
Here.
President Hinckley?
Here.
Superintendent Wells?
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll now, for those who want to join me, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have our mission and vision statement and meeting norms read, please?
Okay. The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Our meeting norms are as follows. 1. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. 2. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. 3. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students. And 4. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Great, thank you. And we need to approve our agenda tonight, but I understand there's one change. Dr. Wells, did you want to comment on the spotlight for Albany High School, which I believe we're not going to be doing tonight?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. Tonight, I'm asking that board to pull item Spotlight 5A, resolution, 5A, yes, 5A Spotlight on Albany High School. Our chief leader at the high school, Principal McNally, is not available to present that tonight due to an urgent matter, and we respectfully request that it be pulled as a result.
Great, thank you. So I will take a motion to approve our agenda for tonight with that adjustment, the removal of item 5.
I motion that we approve tonight's agenda with the adjustment of removing item 5.
I second.
Hey, Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student Trustee Lira?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss? Still not here? Okay. Vice President Duran?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. The agenda passes unanimously. And so since we aren't doing the spotlight, we will skip to our recognitions. And I think the first one, if you're ready, Vice President Duran, will be resolution number 2021-22-21, proclaiming April 2022 as Arab American Heritage Month.
Yes, I'm very proud to introduce this resolution. I believe we have a student from Albany High School, Miriam Gohar, who is with us tonight and representing our Arab American families in the district. I think I just saw Miriam. Is that right?
Yeah, hi.
Sure.
Thanks so much.
Hi, Miriam. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, the way the procedure we'll follow is the one we usually do. We'll start with the background information. So Miriam, I would like you to begin, please, if you would read the first paragraph, and then we will follow with the two student trustees, and then it'll be followed by the order we usually use to pass resolutions, to pass things, beginning with President Hinckley, myself, and then alphabetical order.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So in terms of the background information, could you please begin by reading the first paragraph?
Yeah. Okay. For far too long, the history and achievements of people in color in the United States have been disregarded in school textbooks, the media, and society as a whole. While the federal government today provides monthly recognitions as a first step in addressing this issue, it is crucial that students and staff take this opportunity to reflect on a deeper meaning of historical and cultural perspectives. Diversity is an integral part of the fabric of the United States, and these resolutions provide a way to honor and respect the richness of the diverse cultures of this country. Moreover, it is essential that distinct and accurate perspectives be presented and heard.
National Arab American Heritage Month in April celebrates the heritage, culture, and contributions of Arab Americans in the United States. Arab Americans are often excluded from national studies because they are counted as white in census data. Yet their story here began in 1527. A Moroccan man, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but I will try my best, Estebanico Azemouri, who was sold into slavery by the Portuguese, is known as the first person born in Africa to arrive on the continent of North America.
The first major wave of immigration began in the late 1800s when Arab Christians were fleeing the Ottoman Empire, what is now Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, from religious persecution and conscription, as well as for economic reasons. Immigrants mostly landed in the Northeast and Midwest, finding work there as peddlers and grocers. The Johnson-Breed Immigrant Act of 1924, which used origin quotas to limit immigration, halted the influx of Arab immigrants until 1948 to 1966, when a new wave of Middle Eastern immigration began due to the Arab-Israeli War and other regional conflicts. Many of those immigrants came to Detroit during the auto industry boom. A third Arab immigration wave occurred in the U.S. following the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which ended quotas favoring those from Northern and Western Europe.
Political instability and war have led to a significant rise in Arab immigration. Since the U.S. invasion of Iraq, the number of Arab American refugees has skyrocketed, with nearly 70,000 moving to the U.S. in 2017, compared with just 26,000 in 2003. This fourth wave is composed of refugees from Somalia, Sudan, Iraq, and Syria.
After 9/11, Arab Americans became a leading voice in the civil rights community. They have also become a major force in helping to bridge the chasm of misunderstanding that separates many Arabs and Americans.
The Albany Unified School District Board of Trustees aspires that this recognition series will spur meaningful actions throughout the district for a better present day and keep AUSD on the path for a more equitable future.
Okay, now we'll move on to the exact resolution. Is Trustee Doss? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so resolution number 2021-22-21 proclaiming April 2022 as National Arab American Heritage Month. Whereas the United States is home to an estimated 3.7 million Arab Americans, with the majority native born and a citizenry of 82%, and
is Trustee Doss here, present tonight?
No, do you want to go back up to the students?
Sure. Miriam, if you would read the next two paragraphs, please.
Okay. Whereas Arab Americans live throughout the U.S., with California having the largest population and 1/3 living in the greater Los Angeles, Detroit, and New York areas. And whereas the majority of Arab Americans can trace their ancestry to one of the world's 22 Arab nations, from northern Africa through Western Asia, including Algeria, Bahrain, the Comoros Islands, Djibouti, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Libya, Morocco, Mauritania, Oman, Palestine, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Tunisia, the United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, and Yemen, yet share a common cultural and linguistic heritage in all their diversity. And
whereas Arabic is currently the fastest growing language in the US, and
whereas approximately 25% of Arab Americans practice Islam and an estimated 63% are Christian, and
whereas unimmigrating Arab Americans brought with them their resilience, culture, family values, strong work ethic, and a dedication to education. And
whereas 40% of Arab Americans have a 4-year college degree and 17% have a postgraduate degree, and
whereas Arab Americans have long made contributions to American society in such areas as science, foreign policy, and international development, technology, civic engagement, and the arts, with such examples as writer and poet Khalil Gibran, Danny Thomas, entertainer and founder of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, geologist Farouk Elbaz, poet and physician Fadi Judah, former Congresswoman and Secretary of Health and Human Services Donna Shalala, and the first 2 Muslim Congresswomen, Ilhan Omar, a Somali refugee, and Rashida Tlaib, the first Palestinian American woman to serve. And
whereas there is a lack of accurate data on the Arab American community due to their classification as white, which has resulted in being underrepresented and undercounted in areas of health, education, employment, housing, and I'll just do the next. Whereas the history of Arab Americans in the United States remains neglected, and they are harmed by misconceptions, bigotry, and anti-Arab hate and racial profiling and civil rights abuses. And
Mariam, if you would continue the last 2, please.
yeah, whereas the history of Arab Americans in the United States remains neglected and they're harmed by misconceptions, bigotry, and anti-Arab hate and racial profiling and civil rights abuses. And whereas there's a need for education, awareness, and policies that are culturally competent when describing or addressing the impact of being Arab American in all aspects of American society.
If you would be so kind as to do the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Albany Unified School District Board of Education proclaims the month of April 2022 as National Arab American Heritage Month and encourages all district schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional activities.
Thank you.
great. Thank you so much for putting that together and reading it before we do anything else, since I've forgotten in the past. I will open the floor to a motion to approve the resolution.
I move that we approve resolution number 2021-22-21, proclaiming April 2022 as National Arab American Heritage Month.
I'll second that.
Okay, student trustee Dana,
Yes.
student trustee Lyra,
Yes.
trustee Davidson,
Yes.
trustee Doss, it's not here yet, Vice President Duron,
Yes.
President Hinckley,
Yes.
trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Great, thank you. The motion passes, the resolution passes unanimously. And I would again like to thank Vice President Duran and Ms. Shen also for identifying this as a month we needed to recognize a little belatedly. And thanks to Vice President Duran and Mariam for putting the resolution together and helping us read it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mariam, so very much for being with us and sharing this important event with us.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks. Bye.
Aye. Go ahead, Trustee Boyd.
I just wanted to echo your thanks, President Hinckley, to Vice President Duran and student Mariam, who was on in putting this together. It was incredibly informative. I learned a great deal, and it's just so important that we recognize this month in particular, considering, I mean, going back to the first images that I saw in pop culture as a child was always just negativity with regard to Arab Americans and people from the Arab region. And it's, I'm just so pleased that we're taking the time to acknowledge this really important opportunity to learn and to recognize and to celebrate and affirm and try to just sort of rinse out and like scratch away some of the ugliness that has been there just for decades in our sort of collective pop culture consciousness and try to do better. So thank you very much for taking the time to educate us all and give us the chance to do better.
Thank you for your beautiful words.
Great. Thank you all. And we will now move to our second resolution for tonight, which is resolution number 2021-22-22, proclaiming May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month. So we have no, a very short backup, but I did want to just let folks know that these 3 links here that I've put in the backup are really terrific resources for information and guidance and strategies about supporting student mental health, youth mental health, and I encourage you to follow those links and look to find out more. And then we can move to the resolution itself. And I would love to have everyone help read that as we did with the last one. And if we could start again with our student board members, and then we can go in the same order that we went in last time, that would be great.
Whereas our communities, families have been deeply affected by the pandemic, with increasing stress driven by the fear and uncertainty caused by illness, isolation, and job and healthcare loss at rates never before seen, and
whereas the trauma of the pandemic has layered upon concerns about food and housing insecurity, gun violence, climate change, political polarization, racism, transphobia, deportation, and now the war in Ukraine, and
whereas children and families are dealing with the long overdue societal reckoning with police violence against African Americans, a spike in anti-Asian hate crimes, and significantly higher than average death rates linked to COVID-19 among Latino and African American communities. And
whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that more than 20% of youth have a diagnosed mental health disorder in the United States, and
whereas the average age of early signs of mental illness is 14 when most students are entering high school, and
whereas an estimated 60% of students with emotional, behavioral, and mental health disorders do not graduate from high school, according to the U.S. Department of Education, and
I think, can we go back to the students?
whereas the CDC has declared, oh, was that just read?
Nope,
Oh,
you're right.
Okay. All right. I just had a paranoid. Whereas the CDC has declared suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth ages 15 to 19 years old, and suicide rates for Black youth in California doubled from 2014 to 2020. And
whereas the number of children ages 6 to 12 who visited children's hospitals for suicidal thoughts or self-harm has more than doubled since 2016, according to the Children's Hospital Association, and
whereas researchers from the University of Montreal found that students with untreated mental illness are more likely to be chronically absent, more disruptive in class, have lower academic achievement, and ultimately drop out. And
Whereas the University of Maryland Center for School Mental Health has found that educating staff, students, and parents in the signs and symptoms of mental illness is key to both early intervention and dismantling the stigma surrounding health. And
whereas the CSMH reports that students are more likely to follow through with mental health services in school settings, and bringing mental health services onto campus enables easier communication among providers, parents, and teachers. And
whereas schools that implement comprehensive mental health systems see improved academic performance, fewer special education placements, decreased disciplinary actions, and higher graduation rates. And
whereas spreading awareness of the importance of mental health can help people realize the many ways in which mental illness impacts them and those around them, and can provide the opportunity to learn about available services.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Albany Unified School District Board of Education proclaims the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month and encourages all district schools to take action that spreads awareness, counteracts stigma, and supports students and families struggling with mental health issues.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for help with reading that. And I will now open the floor to a motion to approve this resolution.
I move that we approve resolution number 2021-22-22 proclaiming May as Mental Health Awareness Month.
I second.
Student trustee Dana,
Yes.
student trustee Lyra,
Yes.
Vice President Duran,
yes,
President Hinckley,
Yes.
trustee Boyd,
yes,
trustee Davidson,
Yes.
and trustee Doss is absent. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. The resolution passes unanimously, and thanks again for helping to read that out. I know that this board has been really affirmative in seeking to ensure that we have the mental health services that our students and families need, and that, you know, we're always striving to do better. And unfortunately, keeping up with the demand for mental health services has been challenging in the last few years for many of the reasons outlined in the resolution, that students are students and our communities are struggling more and more. But I'm proud of the work that we've done here in Albany to support mental health, and I hope that we can continue to build on that, not just in May, but every month. So with that, nope, trustee Boyd, go ahead.
I'll just thank President Hinckley for putting that resolution together, which is also extremely important, and echo a lot of what she said, and really just appreciate and honor everyone who works hard to advance the way that we're able to provide services to those who need them, and the extra supports that we all need sometimes, and to thank members of the community for their openness and in sharing struggles that their families are going through, and trusting people in the district with helping carry those, and us working together as a community. It's the stigma that can go along with having challenges with any sort of mental health need to be eradicated, and the shame needs to be removed, and we all need to try to support each other and recognize that we're all struggling, some of us more than others at different times. And so this is just really important, and I appreciate all that I've been able to learn just in the couple of years that I've been on the board, and able to have those around me help educate me as to what our district provides and what we can do better. And so just thank you for shining a light on this, and thank everyone for all the work they continue to do.
Great, thank you. All right, so we now move to item 7, approval of our consent calendar for today. Or questions?
I move that we approve our consent calendar.
I second.
Student trustee Dana,
Yes.
student trustee Lyra,
Yes.
President Hinckley,
Yes.
trustee Boyd,
Yes.
trustee Davidson,
Yes.
Vice President Durham,
Yes.
and I will mark that trustee Doss is absent. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the consent calendar passes unanimously with one absence, and we move to superintendent and board member reports, starting with you, Dr. Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. My superintendent report is an abbreviated report, but it's going to start off with a big welcome back. As you know, students and staff had the good fortune to have their spring break last week. I'm hoping that everybody had a chance to rejuvenate, spend time with family and friends. I've been around the district over the last 2 days, and folks seem rejuvenated and generally happy and a good spirit on campus. And so I want to say to staff and to the board and to my own immediate staff, welcome back. Special education audit, the long-awaited report, the draft is completed. We will be forwarding that to the board shortly via Dr. Brian Biggs in the Friday update, and then he will take it to the special ed advisory and review that with them. And then we will have a complete presentation in the upcoming weeks about the report. And I think most importantly, how we will respond to the report and what kind of systems we put in place to engage in a cycle of continuous improvement, moving our special education department forward, but more importantly, making sure our kids who have special needs are being serviced at the highest level. Communication. I want to thank the many folks who've been over the last few weeks because the emails have been coming in about their appreciation for our ongoing communication around a number of issues. They feel like they are informed and they appreciate the ongoing updates around what's happening with our districts. I want to thank you for those emails because that's affirming to our staff as we put that together for you weekly, and especially in the various languages. And then finally, I'm looking forward to, in June, our Student Achievement Task Force will be bringing forth recommendations in June. We don't know quite what they're going to be. We're grappling with that, but I'm excited about the collective effort to make sure all of our kids are achieving and having plans in place that is a more of a check and balance approach and support for our staff and for our kids as we continue to move towards closing and one day eliminating the achievement gaps. Madam Chair, President Hinckley, that concludes my report for this evening.
Great, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing both the audit and the work of the Student Achievement Committee come to us. I have no report. I'm still basking in spring break and only having one committee meeting so far since spring break started. So I'm gonna pass my time to the others. Go ahead, Vice President Duran.
Okay, I'll start it off by asking everybody if you know that today is Deer Day. Oh, there's some looks of puzzlement. DEAR, drop everything and read. Some of us go way back and remember it, but they're still celebrating it because of the importance of reading. And it's a reminder to all families to make reading a priority in the household, right? So hopefully everybody will do that. I have a couple of announcements, not in our town. There's a couple of teacher workshops, but everybody's invited. The first one is actually tomorrow, April 13th, and it's titled Preventing and Addressing Bullying, Racism, and Intolerance. It's at 4 p.m. And it's a webinar. And the second workshop is called Addressing Microaggressions and Implicit Bias. And this is going to take place on April 26th at 4 p.m. I will forward the information to the superintendent so that he can put it out to the schools, hopefully by tomorrow, and some teachers, hopefully, and others, administrators would be able to listen to or participate in both of these really key webinars. And the last thing I just wanted to say that the policy committee met last night. Unfortunately, Trustee Davidson couldn't be with us because she was in another committee, but it was a very productive meeting. And just like, the equity statement and our viewpoint took us a long time to get it together. The policy committee is working really hard, and we had a really productive meeting, and we're moving on not wrapping it up yet. It'll take us at least one more meeting, and then the student achievement committee will be looking at as well. It'll come back to the policy committee, and then it'll come back to us at the board level. So it may maybe be at the end of the year, but if not, in August for sure. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Trustee Doss, I think, has joined us. We're doing reports. Do you want to go?
Sure, yeah. My report, fortunately, family has suffered a tragedy, so it's going to require me to step away from additional board duties for the time being. And, I hope that the other board members will help me out there and take on some of those tasks that I will not be able to take on at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. I'm sorry to hear that. Trustee Boyd. And obviously we are all happy to support in whatever way we can, that we can speak more after the meeting. Go ahead, Trustee Boyd.
Thank you. And of course, echo what President Hinckley just said, Trustee Doss, always happy to help and support however we can. No board report really. I just will say that I am one of those who got a chance to rejuvenate a little bit over the break. It was the first time in a number of years where I got an actual vacation. And for those like me who were able to grab a little bit of contentment, maybe a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of peace, and are trying to kind of hold on to that. And just, I encourage us all to sort of fight and hold on to it as tightly as we can and try to carry it with us into these next few months. I'm certainly going to be attempting to hold on to a bit of that myself. And that's it from me.
Thank you. Trustee Davidson.
Trustee Doss, you really threw me for a loop there. So I'm very concerned, and I hope that we find out more. And I just wanted to say something on that note and throw the rest out the window. In our district, there's been so much lately that everyone has been going through, and I know it's ongoing for many people. And I just really have admired the way that everyone in the district has stepped up so many times. And, most people don't show it outside, but there's just been a lot that everyone's dealing with. And I know that we have people right now who are managing other things, and they keep doing what they can. So I just want to put it out there that I think everyone has been there. And with that mental health awareness, it's just good. Take care of yourselves. And if you need your spring break to go into this week or next week to have that time, people should do that. And then just really quickly, the Environmental Action Planning Committee meeting was great. I thought yesterday we had really good discussions, and really looking forward to the future. And I appreciated how the conversation was facilitated, and that we are listening to our community members when they have concerns and bring them to the district. And I just think that that is the way for us to work together and move forward.
Thank you. Student board members.
Yeah, we do not have a report today either. Ichitaka, do you want to speak on that, or?
Yeah, I think just like from between the last meeting and break, we didn't have much that we need to report on at this moment.
Great, thank you. Then we will move to public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. So if you are here to make a public comment, please raise your hand and we will get the timer up. Great, thank you. Starting with Stephanie.
Hi, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm just checking my notes. Okay. You all received a letter signed by more than 70 parents about the health and environmental impacts of plastic turf and playground rubber surfacing. We are very concerned that these materials are going to be installed at Marine, Cornell, and the Kruger Field. These materials are made with toxic chemicals, hormone disruptors. They contribute to climate change on many different levels. Everything we explained is backed by numerous scientific studies. We provided in the letter a detailed list of resources, and I'd be happy to share them with anyone in our community who would like to learn more. We understand that all three projects are in an advanced phase, but we're talking about our children's health and our community's health, and I think that must be a priority. In light of these new elements, we're asking the board to work with the school district to implement safe and sustainable solutions. And there are many examples in local schools around the Bay Area, in local public schools. Like Rosa Parks Elementary in Berkeley, they have wood chips under their play structures and not the typical rubber flooring. Just like also many playgrounds in Albany, these engineered wood fibers are ADA compliant and they have an excellent rating for falls attenuation. They have very low installation costs and they're totally safe. So that's one example, but there are many more. And so after 2 years with COVID, our kids, teachers, and staff would benefit so much from sustainable, safe, and green schoolyards. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next is D, initial D.
That would be me, I imagine, Diane Wolke. Good evening, everyone. I sent you an extended letter earlier today regarding the crumb rubber that you have in place currently in some of your fields. I wanted to make sure that was addressed clearly. Tonight, I'd like to speak to you a little bit about the plastic issues. The plastics contain endocrine disrupting chemicals such as PFAS, plasticizers, flame retardants, colorants, UV stabilizers, biocides, antioxidants, lubricants, foaming agents, catalysts, phthalates, and more. These chemicals can cause neurological and behavioral disorders, obesity, metabolic dysfunction. Big ticket item currently is infertility has increased by 47% over the last several years, the last couple of decades, actually. Other reproductive disorders and cancer. Microplastics have now been found in human lung tissue, placentas, the meconium of newborn babies, heart, liver, nervous system, including the human brain, kidney, spleen, and blood. I understand that process is important to many, but I know that while you're just off of your spring break, you're probably looking forward to summer vacation. I'm the mother of a high school AP and IB English Lang teacher as well. If you were planning a vacation this summer and you needed to cross the Bay Bridge, but you awoke to find out that it has yet again collapsed, you would not persist in taking the Bay Bridge. You would find an alternative route. There is so much more information we currently have available, scientific research showing that these products are unsafe. I would ask you to redirect and rethink. As far as mental health goes, what is required here is natural green spaces, not fake green spaces. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions via email or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Celine. Celine, I'm promoting, Zoom says I need to promote you to a panelist, so please accept that, otherwise you won't be able to speak. Go ahead, Celine. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. And you're not muted, so I think it might be an audio issue on your end. I'm going to move to the next person, keep you as a panelist, so see if you can get your audio fixed. All right, so we'll start with Jeremiah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yep, my name is Jeremiah. So, I only have 2 minutes. Okay. So, let's see here. Just want to let everybody know, every other Friday during the lunchtime at Albany High School, basically at the end of lunch, myself and Nate from Berkeley Food Network, we come and we drop off about 2,000 to 2,500 pounds of food. And, you know, I'm still in pretty good shape. Nate's in pretty good shape. And then the elderly ladies in the kitchen, they're in pretty good shape. But we were just trying to find out if there's some cool high school kids that wanted to volunteer, maybe a sports team, you know, a football team or a volleyball team or wrestling or some sort of a group, some volunteers that would want to donate, you know, 5 minutes at the end of their lunch break to help load some boxes of food on the push carts. You know, it's great mental health for kids for students, you know, because you're doing something good for the community. So anyway, I was just trying to encourage some volunteers in the youth. And also the arts committee, I was trying to encourage youth poet laureate. So maybe if we can get some people involved in trying to give a shout out for the youth poet laureate for the city of Albany. And also I was wondering what the school district wants to do with sugar sweetened beverage tax money, if there's anything. Also, I was wondering if it's possible to have some volunteer crossing guards, maybe some parents, because the crossing guards right now, they're on for 15 minutes and they take a break for 15 minutes. So there's a gap. And I was wondering about security around the schools. Do we need private security? Maybe some fun security guards that aren't scary? Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I see Celine trying to work on her audio. You can try speaking again, but we're still not hearing you. You might try leaving and calling in on the phone and see if that works while we're still taking public comment. All right, so next is Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Inez. I am a 5th grade student at Marin. And right now, since Marin has been being rebuilt, we have been moved to the high school campus. And a lot of kids have been thinking about the grass, and they've always liked that in high school, there's this giant area of grass. And I heard about the plastic grass, and it sounds ridiculous. I mean, I understand that not just pollution is one of the problems, but maybe the school may not be able to afford. I mean, grass, it has a lot of water that is included, but there's many other grass that do not need as many types of, it doesn't need as much water. And kids don't tend to the plastic would just really seem to be a waste for the pollution. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of other options of grasses that kids would like that they could still run, play soccer on, but wouldn't need as much water. Would you like to say something?
Hello, yes, my name is Vincent. I'm Inez's dad. thank you for inviting us, and thank you for listening to us. And it'd be great if you saw all this concern from the parents and say, yeah, we can do this, and use our concern and our involvement in the community in a positive way. But it'd be great if we can reduce the plastic. Just really, it's a good idea, and there's a certain amount of obsceneness in fake grass, plastic fake grass. It's kind of gross. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much for your work on the school board.
And I just want to finish. I mean, as mom, we are rebuilding the school. There is an opportunity to do good. So let's do it well. Let's not lose the opportunity.
Great, thank you. And next is Dan. You might be muted.
Oh, here we go. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dan Johnson. I learned that there was plastic turf that was being considered for the new Marin campus that was made from materials similar to car tires. I think, I don't know how this came out. Someone leaked the plans, or because it's not something that had been available to the community to understand and review. I think this is a big misstep. I support restoring a living landscape to Marin, not a plastic landscape. And here's why. It's because natural outdoor settings really appear to reduce ADHD symptoms across all case characteristics. There's a whole body of literature on this now. It's the texture, the detail of nature, leaves blowing in the wind, the irregularity of weeds coming up in grass. These are all things that engage the attention in a way that artificial spaces just cannot. So once you understand this and how the brain works and its connection to nature, it's clear even a pile of wood chips would be better than the sterile uniformity of AstroTurf there. So if that alone weren't enough to rule out AstroTurf, people have already spoken about the chemical runoff. We know that this makes fish sterile. Is this the impact that Albany schools want to have on the greater community? So please think about the benefits to ADHD symptoms of living natural environments and plan these outdoor facilities like we care about these kids. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary Lou.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is
Celine. Okay.
I'm sorry about earlier. I had to change computer. So I'm the mother of Mary Lou and Nova, who are in 2nd and 5th grade at Cornell, and I'm also a historian and an environmental activist. It has come to my attention that the school board approved a marine schoolyard design plan a month ago, and it appears that there was very little communication about it prior to its approval. And to my knowledge, it is still not accessible to the community at large. It gives the impression that this design has been developed with a lack of transparency. A schoolyard is a community project. It is for the community to enjoy and for the community to develop together. Also, I want to say that I was actually appalled to hear that you have a professional landscape architect, Rosie Jenks, who specialized and gave her time and made recommendations against the use of plastic turf, and that she was dismissed. In fact, she was not invited to any more participation after she voiced her recommendation against the plastic turf. I'd like to ask generally what kind of research you have done about the plastic turf specifically. I think it's important to get the information from independent environmental organizations, from health professionals, and landscape architects who have no vested interest in private companies getting contracts. Just a quick search showed me that in 2015, East Bay Mud, which is our water provider, took a strong position against the use of plastic turf because, I quote, "the water savings are not worth the environmental headache." Okay, I'll skip some of it, but I just want to say that about the fact that climate change, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, that sound is always shocking to all of us, but necessary. So I usually make the preface before that public comment, when we have matters that are not on the agenda, the board is not permitted to respond or comment in any way to public comment, but we can talk at the end of the meeting about whether there is an update or additional future agenda items that may be related to things that come up in public comment. So thank you, as always, to our community for voicing their expertise and opinions about everything in the school district. And we now move to our first staff report for tonight, the AUSD COVID-19 protocols and progress update. I believe from Executive Director Ritchie.
Great, thank you, President Hinckley. Those of us joining us tonight, Ms. Shen, if you could start, this will be a very short update, but it will be one that is certainly going to be inclusive of the community's gratitude, because we want to start out with the, excuse me, the next slide, please. The distribution of the, thank you. The distribution of the Ihealth COVID testing kits for our community. I'm happy to report that we were able to have distributed over 3,500 free at-home COVID-19 test kits. This went to every school site in advance of spring break. Please remember that there are 2 tests in each kit. We recommended that the first test be taken right before the return. You'll see from our dashboard updates that we were able to capture some of the positive cases and the recommendations and the requirements following any exposure. So again, the second test that was in that kit, if you still have them, is recommended to be taken on April 14th or earlier if any symptoms develop. Please remember, this is critical that students who test positive or who are ill with symptoms should not come to school. It's also extremely important that all positive results be reported to your student's front office in order for us to mitigate the risk of COVID outbreaks and to allow schools to take the necessary steps to protect the health of our students, staff, and community. And just a reminder that the front office is staffed with a school site liaison, which will take your information, and our school nurse, Monica Meng, will follow up with each family member if there are questions or if there are recommendations or requirements that are in place for that particular situation. Other than that, we're going to be entertaining any questions, but right now, again, I do encourage you to look at our dashboard and look at our trends. Again, you're going to see some spikes and some dips, but overall, we're very happy with everybody taking advantage of the free COVID testing kits for spring break. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, we do have one public comment. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Hi, yeah, Miss Ritchie. So you mentioned the school nurse, and I was kind of wondering if each school had a nurse. I know a nurse is not a doctor, but I was wondering in the future, maybe a 10-year plan or a 20-year plan would be to maybe get a school doctor, or maybe a school district doctor, or maybe a school district doctor's office somewhere in the district that could serve as maybe more extensive of a doctor, maybe if a kid's sick. I don't know. So I was just wondering if basically each school had their own nurse and possibly a doctor someday, or a school district, not a hospital or emergency room, but more of a school district medical department.
Right. Thank you for your question, Jeremiah. Currently, each of our school sites actually do have a school nurse or a certified nursing assistant or a medical assistant whose primary duties are to respond to and be responsible for, let's say, all of the materials and the testing and the cadence of testing when someone is positive or when there's a pool test that's positive. And so I do want to thank again Superintendent Wells for that suggestion at the truly about a year and a half ago for us to make sure that each of our school sites was covered. And that was evidently valuable, especially during the surge in January. And then we do have our public health group. We met, I believe, last night. It is comprised of some physicians and some other public health officials and some other nurses who are all very valuable contributors to some of the questions that we might have and providing some of the guidance that we need to consider when we're making major decisions. But thank you for the feedback on how valuable that personnel has been at each of our sites.
Great, thank you. Well, it's the day we've all been waiting for when COVID is the smallest, shortest item on our agenda. May there be many, many other days like this. So with that, we'll move to item 12, the first, and 12A, the first of our review and action items, the A2g Improvement Grant. So I'll hand it to you, Dr. Wells.
Yeah, the A2g Improvement Grant, as you know, we have a process here where we have the review and discussion with lots of questions. And this is somewhat perfunctory grant that we would get from the state that was rushed down, and we, as a result, had to rush and present to the board at our last board meeting. And tonight, we're just asking the board to approve this grant so that we can receive the funds to do the work as described in the background and in our discussion at our last meeting.
So is someone going to present the grant proposal again? The slides?
No, this was review and action. We did the presentation at the board in the review and discussion part of the grant process.
So the proposal hasn't changed. The slides that were posted tonight are the same as last time?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Board, any questions? If not, then I will take a motion to approve this item.
Okay, I move that we approve the A2g Improvement Grant.
Second.
I'm sorry, was that Trustee Boyd?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student Trustee Lyra?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice President Duron?
No. And I just want to explain that the reason I'm saying no is because the research that we've gotten since the pandemic has said that the online, one of the problems we've seen has been remote learning. We've seen the consequences of it, and online learning for our students that are most at risk and those students that need these courses. this is sort of using the same methodology that got some of the kids here in the same in this position where they're lacking these A through G requirements. So I can't really support our using cyber high. And I know we had very little time to explore it further, but I just think we need to be really thinking outside the box more, or thinking about how we're going to really reach out to our most needy students. And I don't think more online work on their part is going to do it. So I'm voting no for that reason. Just wanted to let you know why.
Okay, President Hinckley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the item A through G Improvement Grant proposal passes with student advisory board members and 4 board members in support, and Vice President Jerome voting against. So we move to item 12B, declaration of the need for fully qualified educators. Hand it to you, Dr. Wells. I'm not sure who's taking this one.
This is something we bring to the board every year, a requirement that HR spend a moment presenting. And as we typically do, HR, our Chief Human Resource Officer, Marina Gonzalez, will give a quick overview for moving this item forward.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Teachers, this is something that we bring annually. This is, we're required to pass this Declaration of Need annually and submit it to the county and to the CTC, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, so that in the event that we need to assist one of our teachers in securing an emergency credential, we are able to do so. And so if we can go to the attachment. What we declare is that at some point during next year, it's possible that we will need to secure emergency credentials. This means that maybe someone has a credential in one subject, but we maybe say, for instance, English, but we need them to also teach history, for instance, if they're like a core teacher. So then we're able to secure that emergency credential for them for that 1 year while they work on completing the requirements to get the full credential or the full authorization to teach the other subject. And so here we list that, estimate maybe in the next year, we might need so many additional emergency credentials. And that's pretty much it. Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry. Were there any changes to this policy or any revisions to it or anything because of COVID? And if there were, can you shed a light on that at all? If there were any changes, maybe there weren't, but.
No, there were no changes. No changes from previous years. This is just something that the commission requires of us every single year.
Got it. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we can take a motion on the declaration.
I'm happy to move, but I'm wondering if Ms. Shen could show us the actual resolution.
Sure, one moment. I'm just going to pull it up. It's the declaration. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry, one moment. The screen share problem. There we go.
Is there, I move that I move that the board approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for school year 2022-2023.
I'll second that.
Student trustee Dana.
Yes.
Student trustee Lyra.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Trustee Doss.
Yes.
Vice President Durham.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
Yes.
And Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Great. Item 12B passes unanimously, and we move to our last review and action, 12C, resolution number 2021-22-24, reduction of classified services. Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Yes, this resolution is being brought forward to reduce FTE for a total of 3.254 FTE of classified support staff. And the reason being is that these positions, or this FTE, is being funded through categorical dollars. That means, or soft money, we call it. So that those are funds that are not guaranteed each year. They're not coming out of the general fund. Because they're not guaranteed for the following year, then we reduce this FTE until, let's say, we have another commitment that the funds are coming in again, and then we're able to restore those positions again. If we can go to the resolution. Thank you. So what you'll see here is that we have 3 classifications, Clerk 2. That FTE was funded through COVID grant monies. The library technician classification, though that FTE was funded by school care, and then the instructional aid, paraeducator instructional, was funded through site intervention monies. And so many times these positions do return if there is a commitment from those, such as school care wanting to fund library techs again. But until we know that, then we do have to reduce this FTE annually. Are there any questions from the board?
I see no questions. If someone wants to make a motion.
Sorry, I have a question. For the positions, is it because we're in open session, is that why there's not specifics on the positions?
When you say specifics, what do you mean by that?
Like are these positions in general, like district-wide, or are they specific for a site, I guess?
They're site-specific because, so for instance, the Clerk 2 FTE, we increased the Clerk 2 support at the elementaries because at the beginning of the year, you'll recall how crazy it was with COVID and all of the requirements, the testing, and calling families and having to pull kids out of class and talk to parents about coming to pick up their kids. Just a lot more work at the school sites, and so that's what we did there. We used some of our COVID dollars to increase support there. The library technician positions, I'd hate to be specific about those because you might be able to figure out who the folks are, but they are site specific based on what school care committed to paying for this year and so on. So yes, to answer your question, they are specific.
Got it. Yeah, you don't have to go into specifics here at this time. Just was wondering if they were. So, and then my last question: all of these were all of these funded from the additional COVID funds that we received, or is it different funding sources for each?
Different funding sources for each.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
There's actually a public comment. If I could get the timer before we take a motion. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I don't know everything regarding this. I don't know the budget. I don't know all the details behind the scenes. But what I do know is that, the mission statement for the school board, I think number one was to keep students in mind or something like that. Keep what's the best for the students. I was just wondering, what is best for the students? Has anybody asked the students, how important any of these jobs were helpful for the students? Because it says you're going to do these layoffs because either there's a loss of money, there's no budget for it, or there wasn't enough work. But maybe there was so much work. Maybe these people really did so much work and they helped a lot of kids and they made a difference in students' lives. But the real problem is there's just not enough money. I don't know. It kind of seems like a library technician's kind of an important person. Students have a lot of questions in the library, and they go to libraries to learn, for resources, and for help to ask questions. I don't know what a library technician does, if they fix computers, but computers break. So I would hate to see anybody lose their job, first of all. I would hope that we would be creating jobs instead of laying off people. So I would just, double check. Maybe there's an alternative way to keep these positions around.
Thank you. All right, board. Any other questions or a motion on this item?
I will go ahead and move that we approve resolution number 2021-22-24, reduction of classified services.
I'll second.
Thank you. Student trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student trustee Lira? I think I'm gonna say no, and for the reason that I feel like I am personally a little bit confused, and honestly, yeah, I resonate with what the previous speaker noted about the importance of a library technician. We've received multiple requests for increasing the amount of library technicians that we have in our district, and I don't think that reducing that position is something that is beneficial at this time. So I'm saying no for now.
Okay. Maybe I should also just re-clarify. So this is something that comes to us every year for positions that the district is not paying for, but are being paid for by school care, and we don't have control over what school care decides to fund. So If school care or other organizations, donor organizations that fund these positions, as often happens, the following year will renew funding for these positions. So our hope is that these positions will remain. If they didn't, then we would need to find additional funding from somewhere else in the district budget to pay for those. So just to clarify that these are just positions that are paid for with funds that we do not control. And so that's why this comes to us every year. Not just, I think I didn't really clarify the caller's statement. So you can go ahead with the roll call. I apologize for explaining that late.
Thank you. Trustee Doss.
Yeah, I mean, I think President Hinckley, I think that it's important to kind of pause a little bit and explain that so that it doesn't come across as if, I mean, exactly, it was said, pretty clearly, basically stating that you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, meaning that, if people are making decisions to help the school in a certain way, that those decisions still need to be made. And as a board, we can't make those decisions for individuals. So appreciate the clarification there. With that, yes.
Okay, so your vote was yes, for the record, Trustee Doss?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
thank you.
Was.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Duran?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Item 12C, resolution number 2021-2224 passes. And we now move to, that was our last item. So we now move to closing business and upcoming agenda items. I just wanted to identify a couple of upcoming or to be scheduled items. So I believe on April 26th, yes, that is the day, at our next regular board meeting, a plan for the renovation of Cougar Field and the track will be coming to us. And I just wanted to mention that because we did have public comment about what that will include in terms of turf versus grass. So I just wanted to mention that that is the next process item that will come to us around the concerns that were raised around turf and grass. And the other items I wanted to flag were that we're still waiting for staff to schedule a workshop on the budget for the ACC program so that the board can understand what decisions are being made about enrollment and funding and so forth. And then I wanted to add to that as well that the board really needs an opportunity to discuss and make decisions about the pool budget as well. We know there was some confusion about whether a fee increase had been approved for some users of the pool, and the board, I think, is still waiting. Well, I know the board is still waiting for some clarity about the budget and what the plan is going forward. So I'd like to request that that actually come to us as an agenda item, not just a written update, because I think it's so important. So that said, and then we do also, our next immediate board meeting is April 19th, a week from today, which will be our budget workshop. So with that, what other agenda items are there? Vice President Duran, go ahead.
President Hinckley, could you just clarify, because you did mention it around the turf issue. I mean, we've certainly gotten a number of letters and of course the presentations tonight. And were you referring specifically to just the track, or are you saying at this point we would receive a report from the staff regarding this whole issue around besides the Marin project, but all the schools and playgrounds?
So the only item that's currently slated to come to us as an agenda item is Cougar Field. So as far as where, and the board has not been making decisions about the design at Marin and Cornell. So maybe you want to ask for the superintendent to give us an update about where those processes are. This was a topic of conversation at the Environmental Action Planning Committee yesterday. So I think, you could request some next steps on those two things, because there's not a next step yet that would involve the board, only on Cougar Field.
Right. Well, maybe I'm also jumping the gun. Maybe Trustee Davidson, were you going to speak to that? Since you were at the committee meeting yesterday, I'll just let you go ahead. I'm assuming you're going to make it an agenda item. So you go ahead.
I would love to. I just wanted to touch base. So I have been looking back at the Marin plans and trying to figure out where this all went. So I really think we do need an agenda item, because what I see and what we approved is a green circle that says new landscape and play yard. So that's what we saw. So really the community was not informed, and I think we owe it to them. I also would really like us to be transparent about our processes and our planning. The HVAC at Cornell, I was in there taping off where the units are supposedly going to go today, and I know that we're working on this as a process, but I just am really concerned that things happen and we sort of set a committee and then we have conversations in the committee, and then things keep happening on the sides, and they don't go the way that our community, our stakeholders really have expressed that they want them to go, or would be best for our students and our learning spaces. So I really think that we need to work on this and be more explicit and clear in these parts. And when we say, oh yeah, there was a committee, well, who was on the committee? Is it predominantly our teaching staff, or is it an even split of our stakeholders on these different committees, reviewing these things and having a conversation? And then do they come and present before the board so that we are fully informed as well before we approve decisions? I think these are things that we really need to work on as I'm watching these processes play out. And I do appreciate, Dr. Wells, that you are checking in and that our director of maintenance, Scott Jeffrey, has really, really been involved in this. And I think that this could help us in the future. So I would really like to agendize a conversation about our facilities plans and planning. And then I would also like to agendize an item where we discuss the sugar sweetened beverage tax. Actually, before Jeremiah called in with that, I think you must read my mind sometimes. I'm going to do some research on my own, but I'm just curious about what we can utilize there, if we can have a discussion about it, how it can help us, those sort of things. And then the last item is crossing guards and the safety of our drop-offs and our pickups. I know we've got a walking school bus kind of in the works and going after the recent incident, but I also think that, I've noticed that we are often missing crossing guards at critical drop-off and pickup times, and we have situations where I think we can make our kids safer. So I think we should discuss that as well. Sorry for that.
Madam Chair, President Hinckley. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead. I was just telling her that I wrote it down. So
great. I think those are all wonderful, wonderful upcoming agenda items, long overdue, especially the one around health and safety and crossing guards. I think that's a long overdue item, and I want to thank you, Trustee Davidson, for championing that, because we have to figure out how we going to make sure we keep our kids safe and not have a knee-jerk reaction when something happens and say, hey, all of a sudden we can get adequate number of crossing guards. But that aside for a moment, I'm going to ask staff to prepare a discussion for the board to have about process, because it's going to be critically important that we hone in on our process about what we approve. And then if there's some interest group that disagree with the approval, everything has a major impact and we stop and revisit again. And then another group come and we stop and revisit again. It's important to have these kind of bold, courageous, open conversations about process, because if we don't, we can find ourselves kind of like where we're at with our HVAC, where our kids are on task to have their track renewed and football field renewed so that they can play football and other community activities, soccer, in the upcoming school year in the fall, and run track on a timely schedule. But if that is impacted, they and the community will be without. Now, if that's what the community wants, that's fine. But then if another group say, hey, we don't want this, so we really need to hone down the process, articulate it, and maybe even have it as a board policy, just to avoid being in the 11th hour and then having to pause and stop and redo a lot of stuff and spend much more money that we don't have and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying what the parents are raising now are not legitimate. It just brings to mind that we have to have a process and stick with it. I'm also concerned about the mischaracterization about the plans leaked as if they were being hidden. That was deeply troubling because those are plans that are public and public should have access to them. It shouldn't be any leaking. And the district is not trying to, nor the school site, hide the plans from anyone. And so I just want to put that out because when we talk about transparency, we need to be open and honest and hear various perspectives. So thank you for listening to that.
Thank you. Trustee Doss.
Trustee Davidson mentioned it already, so I just kind of wanted to second one of the items I was thinking about, which is the kind of health and safety and security on our campuses. So definitely looking forward to that agenda item. Another agenda item I'd like to see is on our athletic program, just an overall of where we all are now, and an opportunity to have discussions and ideas and brainstorm some things there. So just an opportunity to have a discussion. And then the last agenda item that I'd like to see is around our interventions. I know we've had kind of like individual conversation about intervention either at this site or at that site, but I'd like an opportunity to look at things overall. And then even at places where they don't exist, and having a conversation around maybe implementing them in places where they're not, or enhancing them in places where they already exist.
All right. Any other items? All right, so I've got all of that. And with that, we are adjourned for tonight. And our next special board meeting is next Tuesday, a board workshop on the budget, which I believe is in person, right, at Ocean View. Public is welcome to attend from 6 to 9, I believe. And then our next regular board meeting is Tuesday, April 19th on Zoom. I think that, or 26th, sorry. I think that might be our last Zoom board meeting, knock on wood. So we'll see you all then. Somebody looked a little nervous. Anyway, good night. We're adjourned. See you all next week.